Okay, Science 30. So the next set of videos is going to be on meiosis and then on mutations. So we've just talked about cell division. We've talked about mitosis, which is the division of body cells, somatic cells, going from, like in humans, diploid 2N, and it makes two more diploid 2N cells. Um, so we've just got replication basically happening during mitosis, where you're just making more cells. So when you have hair, you're making more hair cells. When you have skin, you're making more skin cells mitotically. But when you undergo something called meiosis, this is where you have a different type of cell division happening. It's called reduction division because you're going from a diploid cell and you're making it what's called haploid. So instead of having two N or two copies of information in the cell, you only have one copy of information in the cell. So you're making gametes, you're making sex cells. So meiosis is the formation of sex cells. And so what happens here is that your gametes, which are formed in your testes in men, or the eggs, which are formed in the ovaries in women, are going to go from a diploid, double the information cell, to haploid, only half of the information containing cell. And so meiosis is occurring in two stages to produce a total of four haploid cells. So basically, meiosis occurs twice. So that's why we say it makes four cells. So depending on how you're looking at it, most accurately, you would say that meiosis forms four haploid cells because it's undergoing two rounds of division, unlike mitosis, which just happened once. Um, we won't get into the crazy detail of that, but if you took Bio 30, we talk about meiosis 1 and then meiosis 2, which is the second round. Um, and so the reason why you have to have haploid cells as sex cells is so that when you combine one haploid egg and one haploid sperm, you make a diploid new organism through fertilization. So mitosis, the one we talked about last video, looks like this, right? You've got a body cell, a somatic cell, and it undergoes mitosis. So you have interphase, the preparation phase, and you go prophase, um, metaphase, anaphase, and then telophase, where they split into two new cells. And these two cells are identical to the original cell. So you probably can't see this because it's covered by my box, but here over here it should say 2n is equal to 2. And you started off with a cell that was 2n equal to 2. Or in other words, you had a diploid cell here and you ended up with two identical diploid cells as well. So identical cells are produced in mitosis. You go from a diploid to a diploid. But in meiosis, it looks different. Look at this. You have a diploid cell, and then you have four gametes that are each containing half the information. So notice how here you had two blues and two reds, and here you only have one blue, one red, one blue, one red, one blue, one red, one blue, one red. Notice a little alternation in colors here. This is caused by something called crossing over. This is what helps create variability in organisms because as the genetic information sort of swaps and exchanges parts throughout the meiosis process, each sperm or each egg is slightly different from each other. And this is why you could have two parents and they could have three different kids, and all three kids are slightly different, right, in the way they look, personalities, and genders, and blah, 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 because even though the same egg and the same sperm are coming from the same parent, they are different from each other. All the eggs that mom has and all the sperm that dad has are ever so slightly different because of these crossing over events, which makes these different sort of sections. Okay, so that's this crossing over event that I just explained here, and this is why no two siblings are ever exactly the same, unless you have twins, which is different. Crossing over, therefore, just a little bit more detail here, is when you swap parts. So crossing over provides genetic advantages because you have more diversity, and so your population is more diverse and therefore less susceptible to disease and pressures. Gametogenesis is the production of gametes, so the production of eggs in women and sperm in men. Four sperm are produced at the end of meiosis. In women, it's interesting, only one egg is produced, and then the three other cells that are the product of meiosis are not eggs, they're actually these sort of helper cells called polar bodies, and they assist in the maturation of the egg. So remember, at the end of meiosis, four cells are produced, four haploid cells, If you're a man, all 4 of those become sperm, so power in numbers. And in women, only one of those 4 cells actually becomes a viable egg, and the other 3 cells become polar bodies. A lot of the genetic information in humans is actually stored in the egg, not in the sperm. So the egg is significantly larger in size, and the egg also has a significant role in development of the embryo, and is what takes care of the baby or the zygote before mom is able to take care of it during implantation and pregnancy. So there you go. You have a girl, you have a boy, each with 46 chromosomes in their genome. The woman will eventually have eggs produced, which are haploid, half the genetic information, through meiosis. The man will have half the genetic information in his sperm through a process of meiosis, and then the two will come together in a fertilization event, and you'll get a zygote, which now has 46 chromosomes. But without meiosis, you would never make these haploid egg and sperm, and then you wouldn't be able to fertilize and make this zygote. And now another arrow could be drawn, and you could have this child, which is still 46 chromosomes, but it's got so much bigger than this zygote through mitosis, or somatic body cell division, replication. Okay. And then obviously that child gets bigger and bigger and bigger, becomes a boy, which becomes an adult, and that's through mitosis as well. All right, so labeling the differences between these, mitosis occurs all over the body. Meiosis only occurs in your gonads, the ovaries in women and the testes in men. Mitosis is used for growth, maintenance, and repair. Meiosis is used for gamete production in sperm in men and eggs in females. Mitosis ends in an identical cell. So if you started off as half diploid, you're going to have a new cell that's also diploid. So 46 chromosomes, and you make more cells which also have 46 chromosomes. But in meiosis, it's called reduction division. You started off with a diploid somatic cell, and you ended with a haploid gamete. So you went from 46 chromosomes to having half the genetic information, only 23 chromosomes. In mitosis, the 2 identical cells are the products. And in meiosis, there's 4 haploid cells are produced, and they are not identical to the parent, the original cell. Crossing over can lead to variation in meiosis, and mitosis doesn't have crossing over occur. All the cells produced should be identical to the original, versus in meiosis, your 4 gametes produced, either 4 sperm or the 1 egg and the 3 polar bodies in women, should be ever so slightly different. Okay, so in the next video, we're going to discuss mutations. Thanks, guys.